How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting, and welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia, where we are this will be a short episode. Not a short episode at all. It was great. It was, probably not worth it. Kinda was, but I lost my voice completely for like 2 days, and the recovery was a while. But we're back, and I'm feeling a lot better. Not 100%, so I really shouldn't push my luck too much, but considering where I was even just a few days ago, it's so much better. And so I'm happy to be able to record again. So we essentially saw, I'm guessing, the climax, but that's the thing, is I thought we were essentially at the end, and maybe we are, but I do wonder if there's more to Dark Michiru to explore. So I'm kind of hoping we get to at least understand maybe where she came from, like what's her story, or if that's going to be left to be an enigma. I'm just not sure what to expect. But regardless of that, I'm excited to see where we go today. I'm anticipating that we reach the end of the Michiru's route, but I've been very wrong, and I'm happy to be very wrong. So wherever we end up, I'm just going to be excited. So thank you so much for joining me. Kick back, relax. Let's just jump right back into it, shall we? Can't stand people who decide they've saved someone with a little kindness. Human beings exist with their own private bubble of solitude. The pain and sadness can't be cured by gentle words. Offering gestures of sympathy can make you feel good about yourself, but for the recipient, it's meaningless at best. I don't agree. I do think that there is value in just feeling heard, feeling supported, because having been in situations where I have been with and without support, I believe there's a large difference. But gentle, kind words and, thoughtful, presence of others is not enough to make things better by themselves. There's an element of self-actualization that needs to occur, which is often why therapy is really good, because that can be an intervention of self-actualization that can help a lot, especially because sometimes you can tell there are things that are easier to tell a relative stranger who's literally whose job is to listen and has been trained on how to listen well. I was kind of met on counseling until I tried it, and it's one of those things where I'd get out of the conversation and I'd be like, well, I mean, that was pleasant, but I don't feel any different. But then after you do it a few times, you kind of suddenly find that when your thoughts get dark and cloudy, you almost automatically start going through the thought patterns that the counselor has kind of helped walk you through. They don't tell you, oh, when this happens, do this. They're not giving you a guidebook. It's just simply, they help put your own thoughts in perspective and framework. And that alone really helps. And I think friends and family can also do this, even if they're not trained. And even if they don't know what they're doing, sometimes just having that support really helps put things in reference and keeps them from feeling like titanic, monumental, end of the world type scenarios. Because sometimes when we're trapped in our own heads, we take things that are, yes, problems and bad and not good, and we just make them way bigger than they need to be. That's definitely what I do and what I've needed help with, where it's not running away from the facts that your life can get very hard and you can be facing challenges. It's where you kind of extrapolate those feelings and blanket everything with them, using all of it. It's like taking a broad stroke brush instead of a fine detailed brush, where a storm cloud normally is just kind of a part of the sky, but because you hyperfixate on those storm clouds, it becomes your entire sky and floor and walls. And that's where it becomes dangerous, because we tend to hyperfixate on our own problems, and it can be difficult to get out of that rut. So counseling is great, and sympathy and listening and gestures are relevant. People don't need a crutch or a savior. They need to overcome their own suffering or find the strength to accept it. And when someone needs help getting to that point, I'm willing to lend a hand. Of course, that doesn't mean I go around offering my support to every sad sack I run into in the street. I'm not some hypocrite politician or cult leader. That's also true. Someone who claims to be able to fix everybody, be wary of that. So what distinguishes the people I willingly assist from those I don't? Not sure if there's any clear criteria, really, other than whim. Sometimes I just feel like it. Aww. Oh, now that's a great sound bit right there. Even when it comes to the young lady currently sleeping at my side, thoroughly pondering the reason why I helped her doesn't produce a convincing answer. That's just the way human beings are. No matter how logically you analyze our motives, no matter how thoroughly you investigate the context of our actions, every once in a while, you'll end up running smack dab into the incomprehensible. I can't comment on how meaningful this particular incident may or may not be, but I'm not unhappy with the way things turned out. In any case, this tricky part comes next. Yes. Tricky, but fun. Oh. Oh! Ironically, the tricky part comes next. First thing I thought of was like, yeah, we have to explain that we're dating now. Second thought that came to my head is like, oh, yeah, Michiru's not supposed to be alive right now. That's a bit of a, yeah. I imagine we are going to be thoroughly punished. Surprise! Like I said, I thought about it in hindsight, but I do think some people said that in the edited version, like the scrubbed version that was kind of put out on like Steam, Michiru wasn't in the casket for 3 days. It was more like 3 hours or like a much shorter amount of time. And like, say what you will, there's a biological aspect to it that kind of makes sense, that perhaps that change was made by the original creator, because in hindsight, not having any food or water and for 3 days is pretty devastating on your ability to function as a human being. Like, so being able to even dig her way out of like get her way out of a casket, even if it wasn't properly buried and was designed to be breakoutable, like it still is like quite an extreme thing. And then to have them be able to like hold conversations, walk back up to school, take baths, like it's all fun and it makes a great story, but it's not super realistic, because 3 days without water or food, you're like teetering on death, not teetering on I'm hungry. But you know, that's just how things go. The other thing about it too is I think it was mostly meant to be an allegory, you know, reflective of the symbolism of the story of Christ. Like, some people might say that that's a bit extreme, isn't it? But that's the thing too. You're also got to remember the writer from the perspective of the writer is highly unlikely to be actually Christian, but familiar with Christian and Christian like symbolism and iconography. So from that perspective, it's no different than using, you know, narrative stories from Buddhism, or using characters and reference from Norse mythology. You know, that like we use these writing tropes of religious figures all the time, but we tend to avoid it when it's like our own cultural heritage, because it can be a touchy subject. I still think though that the intent was to be symbolic of like a rebirth, and like a 3 days under the ground and then emerging from when you were dead to being alive. Like, the symbolism for me seems really apparent, and I really don't think it was accidental, which is almost my biggest reason why I believe the 3 days was chosen as like the time duration, is mostly to try and herald back to this concept of a resurrection or a rebirth. So yeah, about that. What's zombie powder?
ただいま。いやいやいや、ただいまじゃなくて、そしてお帰りじゃなくて、だって
I agree. Amane is being the rational one here by being irrational. Like, she genuinely thought she was gone. Makina bouncing back like that kind of makes sense. Sachi not believing it, she kind of said it from the beginning. She never fully believed it was real. So yeah, interesting.
Nani? 朝から騒がし。やあ、ただいま。
Aww.
なぜ？どうして？なぜに？もうあまね。 いいじゃないのよさ。だってチルチル帰ってきたのよ。どの面下げてか知らないけど帰ってきたのよ。え、どの面って
Relevant question. These ones. I pinch Michiru's face and stretch her cheeks out to both sides.
この面ね。ああ、その面な。いいじゃん。割にその面ならいけるいける。ちょっと待って。なんで復活した？あまねっては意外にめんどくせえな。帰ってきたからいいじゃんって言ってるのよさ。ねえチルチル。
We do need to explain.
本物だよね。
We do need to explain, but I kind of like Makina's attitude. She's just kind of like, what does it matter? She's here. Sure. It's kind of weird, but hey, she's real. She's a real Michiru, and she's actually back and not actually dead. Shouldn't we just be happy with that? Makina trots over and begins poking at Michiru's chest like a housewife prodding at a shrink-wrapped piece of produce.
本物よ。当たり前でしょ。だよね。だったらさ。だったら。
Aww.
だったら。
Aww.
いいじゃん。だったらすごくいいじゃん。悪くないじゃん。よかった。よかったのよさ。よかった。
That's actually really cute. She went from like yay, 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 and then like it like slowly like descended on her like the implications and the meaning, and it's like just she turned into a basket case. That's so cute.
マキナ。チルチル。寂しかったのよ。私寂しかったのよ。うん、ごめんね。もうどこにも行かないよ。約束してくれる？約束なのよ。うん、約束できるよ。
Yay! Michiru and Makina link their little fingers together, watching as they swear their oath. Amane heaves a heavy sigh of surrender.
わかったわよ。確かに奇跡の復活で帰ってきた。それは良かった。これ以上喜ばしいことはない。だからもういいわよ。無理やりに納得するわよ。でも私にも約束しなさい。どんな約束？それはもちろん、もう絶対に二度と死んだりしないって。
You can't do that again. Literally, our hearts won't take it.
もう死なない。今度死んだりしたらぶっ殺すからね。
Next time you turn up dead, I'm making sure you're dead.
今度死んだらぶっ殺される。そうだね。それでいいね。もうどっと疲れたわよ。さっちゃんはこのこと知ってるの？
Yeah, she was the first one to know. We ran into her on the way back.
だったら教えてくれればいいのに。それであの子なんて言ってた？二人のこと見てさぞ驚いたんじゃないの？
Oh no, naturally, she was just like, welcome home.
ただ帰りなさいって。そっか、さっちゃんらしいといえばさっちゃんらしいか。
Yes, she is.
6枚の。
Oh, and she's gone again. Same as it ever was. You'd better give them all proper apologies later.
ユミコには悪いことしたわね。
And so, Michiru returned to her friends and her school, freed from her dependence on medication and that bizarre tsundere act. She spends the rest of her school days as a normal girl, 6 pendants hanging on the wall in her room. Aww. A little too neat a conclusion, unfortunately. Honestly, Michiru's just managed to finally face up to one of her multiple problems, nothing more. Yeah.
ねえ、ユージ、これって高校じゃないよね。
Nope, we're actually on a run. Yeah, that's right. This is fully legitimate date.
ああ、なんで走るの？しかも5キロも。
Because you told me to plan the date, and I decided on a little short distance sprinting. Listen, the act of running isn't just...
ああ、もういい。いいです。わかりました。ねえ、そうだね。私がね、言ったからだよね。うん、納得納得。
At least she's kind of worked out how this is gonna work. Our light jog concluded, Michiru and I arrive at a certain high spot overlooking the sea, a place that holds many memories for us.
はあ。ねえ、最近私はずっと私でいられてる？
I'm glad we can have a conversation about this, because that's pretty good. I think, like I said, I theorize we need to have an understanding of where Dark Michiru is coming from, and I'm hoping that it's not just going to be left at that. Yeah, you haven't turned into anyone else since you came back. Something to celebrate, right? For some reason, it doesn't look like she's entirely convinced of that.
そうなんだけど。でもあの子はそれでいいのかな？
What do you mean?
だってあの子は私の中にまだ存在してる。決して消えたわけじゃない。それなのに出てこないなんて。それで本当にこれっきりでいいのかな？
It's interesting because, like, I agree no, but, like, if we have to choose one, I want Michiru to be here, not Dark Michiru. But, like, it does feel like she at least deserves to tell her story. I reach out and wipe the sweat from Michiru's cheek with a hand towel. We went over this before I buried you. I told the girl straight out that if you regained the courage to live, she probably wouldn't have a chance to come out again. And she told me that that was alright with her. She understands that body belongs to you. There's nothing to feel guilty about.
もしかしたら全部私の幻覚だったのかもしれないけど、あの箱の中であの子とお話をしたの。
Because she used that argument to try and help convince Michiru to move forward, that, like, even after you're gone, you might continue to exist with the regrets you have, so why hold to them? Why not just throw yourself into your life and attempt to try and at least say what you always wanted to say, do what you wanted to do?
その時に心残りがあるって言ってた。それ、すごく気になるよ。
Michiru, my friend, you've only just managed to regain control of yourself. Why go out of your way to...
わかってる。わかってるけど、私だけ幸せになんてなれないよ。彼女のこと最初は嫌いだったけど、本当に私のために行動してくれただけだってことが分かったから。
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Michiru's grown as a person a lot, and while it's still a fresh new world, I feel like it's true. She's at least realizing this.
それに、この心臓は彼女からもらったものでしょ。そのおかげでこうしてユージといられるんだし。
A bead of sweat dangles from the tip of her nose. Michiru stares up at me with a serious expression on her face. It takes an effort to keep a wry smile off my face. Even without the pseudo-tsundere act, this girl's still a real handful. But compared to forcing herself to act out some character, I suppose it's nice to see her honestly expressing her feelings. Alright, if you insist, I'll try calling the girl out. I do have a method in mind.
方法って？
Same one I used with your medicine. In other words, just a little manipulation of your assumptions.
New?
I set up a simple magic show in Michiru's room. The trick I have in mind, like most magic, accounts for a little more than a little bit of psychological misdirection. It's physically impossible to produce a coin from nothingness, and of course you can't abruptly make one disappear either. Such illusions are made possible by manipulating your assumptions. A visual distraction leaves you convinced that the magician's carrying nothing, where in fact he's just moved the something around to where you can't see it. Everyone knows the basic idea, but it's surprisingly hard to overcome the mind's tendency to fill in the gaps and jump to conclusions. Deliberately planting the wrong idea in someone's head isn't as difficult as it might sound. Oh, it's absolutely true. I mean, we like to talk about object permanence, but frankly, like, object permanence is our brain using a simulation to predict, like, where objects are when you can't see them, and that's what ends up being played with. Like, if you can manipulate that sense, you can, and trick it, you can make things feel miraculous. That's why, despite the fact that we all know magic is just illusions, magic shows are still really fun to go to, because you can't help but wonder how on earth did they actually do that, because It can genuinely baffle you. And of course, you can have it explained to you. They can walk you through the steps and you can watch it piece by piece and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But that's still for me, despite knowing all that, it doesn't take away the joy from watching a show. All right, let's see. As Michiru said, I don't think the girl's vanished. She's keeping to herself, that's all. Can't exactly reach in and grab her, so I'll have to trick her out.
それで、その鏡がいるわけ?
The only prop was a full-length dressing mirror. I had Sachi fetch it for us. Didn't take long at all, so I'm guessing she borrowed it from someone's room. That's right. This is all we need to pull this off. Alright then, Michiru, start looking at yourself in the mirror. Keep staring into your own pupils and don't even think about blinking, understood? Like, it's a cute thing, but like, I wonder, do people in Japan actually make a noise when they're staring? Because I obviously, like, it seems silly to even ask that because of course not. But I also could see people who are hamming it up and memeing it up do it, but you know, it's not real. Like, does that make sense what I'm trying to say there? Because they do it in anime all the time, and they're doing it here. And I think it's a fun way to communicate to a reader what's going on. But at the same time, it's like, do people actually do that? Because that feels like it'd be really cringy in real life. Be like, why are you making a noise? Aw, that's cool. I still gotta say, like, Michiru's character design's fantastic. Absolutely beautifully done. And just a cool outfit. And just, in general, a wonderful getup. Now stay like this for a few hours, keep it up, and she'll come out eventually, I'm sure of it.
何時間かってどれぐらい? そんなに大変なの?
You're the one who wanted to make this happen. Can't even put in a little effort? Well, no skin off my nose if you want to quit.
やる。頑張るもん。
Now, Reflection's eyes are gonna turn and be locked onto us.
しんどい。
Aww. Okay, do it quietly.
はい。
Honestly, I don't have a clue whether staring at her own eyes is actually gonna wake up the other girl. That's not really the point of this little exercise, though. By physically and mentally wearing Michiru out, I'm hoping to get her to a drowsy, half-conscious state where it'll be easy for her alternate self to appear. My words should do the rest. Stay focused, Michiru. She'll come out any minute now, just a matter of time. I'm not really convinced of that, but I keep up a constant chorus of firm declarations of the contrary. In other words, I'm forcing the idea that she's definitely going to wake up into Michiru's mind. Hopefully, my confident attitude will eventually lead her to the surface. All of a sudden, something changes in Michiru's face. It's a truly subtle transformation, but the cast of her eyes seems slightly different. I love how it is really subtle. Like, the shift in, like the way they draw the eyes. Like, that's all they needed. And that's really cool. That's really, really cool. There you are. Finally woke up, huh? We're close enough now that just talking like it's a done deal should finish things up. Michiru's unlocked the door. Now I've pushed it open. The girl steps blinking into the light.
私はもういいから。気にしないで。
Bingo. Knew I could pull this off. Thought that was you. Happy to see you again.
私は嬉しくないよ。会いたくなかった。私はこのまま消えようとしてたのに。この子の人生に。もう私は必要ないんだから。
Granted, if I have to pick one of you, Michiru is the one I'm gonna pick, but you're talking just like she was when she vanished, and we decided that was markedly unhealthy. We gotta find a better path for this. Now you're talking just the way Michiru was before. Aren't you supposed to have a little more sense than her?
でも、もう私は出てきちゃいけないのに。
Michiru called you here of her own free will. There's nothing wrong with accepting that. Why hold back?
そんなこと言われても。
Alright, then I'll give you a simple question. What are your regrets?
心残り。
Oh boy. That got dramatic. My regrets. Deep inside Michiru, nestled in her heart, I sink into thought. Why did it turn out like this? Why do I exist inside her? Here we go again. On the way back from school, I was badly hurt in some kind of traffic accident. Truck-kun tried to isekai her. I guess it kind of did, really. Until then, I lived a very normal life, I think. Normal, I guess so. My grades were pretty decent, although I wasn't an honor student. I did fight with my parents sometimes. Even ran away from home for a day or two every once in a while. Oh, dang. I mean, I think all of us tried that. I remember when I was, like 11 or 12, I got real upset at my parents for something, and I decided I was going to run away. Started packing like a bag like I did when I went on vacations. And I remember my mom, when parents see their kids genuinely packing up their stuff, they get worried. And I feel like everyone handles it differently, I'm sure. But like for my parents, like they were worried. But then my mom came up to my room and she said, "Hey, are you sure you want to go?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm leaving." And I was like, and she was like, she didn't even ask me like where I thought I would go. She's like, "Okay, but would you like to have dinner before you left?" And I was like, I remember I was quiet, and she's like, "I made spaghetti," and I was like, "Fine." So I went down and had spaghetti, and I grew up in a very religious home, and so we would say prayer or grace over dinner. And I remember she specifically said in her prayer that she hoped that I would be safe, and that that I would know that no matter where I went, that I was loved, and that I would hopefully come back someday if I decided to leave. And I remember that my heart just broke, and I was just like, we ate dinner, and at the end I was just like, I'm not going anywhere, and I just stayed home. It was very, very fun. Very, very, like, not fun. It was, I'd consider it almost traumatic, but it was also one of those, like, core memory moments where it was like, my parents stopped trying to control me, because that's what parents tend to do. You tend to just want to control your kids. But she stepped away from that, and my mom and dad said, "You know what? He's young, but let him choose. But instead, let's just try and help him understand how we feel." And it worked. Apparently, I used to say some mysterious things when I was a little kid, but as I grew up, that stopped happening. There was someone I liked, although I'm not sure if it was a love or just a crush. I never expressed those feelings. Didn't really feel the need to, just watching him from a distance made me happy enough. Then out of nowhere, that accident brought it all to an end. I don't know about the details myself. I was just walking home after school one day when everything went black. When I came to, I was in the hospital. The sharp smell of antiseptic solution and the off-white ceiling greeted me. My mind was sluggish and fuzzy, but I was awake. Mom? What was Mom doing here? What happened to me? My ears weren't quite working properly. I couldn't hear her voice that clearly. I wanted to ask all sorts of questions, but my voice didn't want to cooperate. Not just that, I couldn't move my body. What was going on? I almost felt like I'd been locked up inside a cramped little box. The doctor, who hurried into the room at the sound of my mom's voice, shone a penlight in my eyes for a while, then shook his head in silence. When she saw that, Mom started to cry. I didn't understand why she was sobbing so bitterly. I mean, I was perfectly conscious. I thought I'd recovered and be back to my normal life soon enough. But reality was very different from what I had imagined. Day after day, Mom sat at my bedside and squeezed my hand. Weeks rolled past, but there wasn't any sign I'd be able to go home anytime soon. I really think there must be, like, it's hard to see people go, but there must be nothing worse than, like, having to sit there, look at a child in such dire straits, like your child, or your brother, or you know, like somebody younger than you, like who's like your family or close friend. Like that's got to be one of the worst feelings, is being like feeling that helpless feeling. Like I've felt that helpless feeling before, but about pets or about, you know, grandparents. But can you imagine it being like your child? That would be just, it'd be crushing. Yeah, I thought so too. I felt fine, really. Good enough to leave the hospital right away. But even though I was really clear-headed, I still couldn't manage to move even the tip of my tongue. I didn't understand that at all. My mouth was numb and immobile. My throat felt dry sometimes, but I couldn't do anything about it. I wanted to tell Mom how I felt. If I couldn't speak, even moaning would be enough. But my body was completely switched off, quiet and still as the deserted school building in the middle of the night. It sounds like she had essentially like a full spinal cut. I mean, it can't be full, because otherwise she wouldn't be, like, having her sympathetic breathing. Of course, she might even not. It sounds like she might be on the ventilator. But her heart's still beating, so there's something still there. But yeah, it sounds like she really got messed up. My classmates didn't come to visit. No, that's not entirely true. A few days after the accident, a group of girls I'd been friendly with did show up once, but when they got a look at me lying there in bed, they grimaced. They weren't too obvious about about it in front of Mom, but I noticed a subtle change in their attitude. They kept their distance for the whole visit, and it wasn't long before they left. As they walked away, I could see one of them mouthing the word, "Hope I never end up like that." After my classmates left, Mom gently stroked my head, as if to reassure me that everything would be alright. I had no way of knowing what had happened to my body or the details of my condition, but from what the girls had said, I could tell it must have been pretty bad. I guess Dad was busy with work since he only came to visit occasionally. Even so, I was always happy when he did show up. But when Dad looked at me, he always had a really scary look on his face. His eyes were empty, completely emotionless. I think, for a provider, like, it's one of those sad things about, like, when a traumatic event happens, is, like, life has to keep going, right? Like, you still have bills to pay, you still have mouths to feed, like, and so, like, yeah, you want to just stop everything and be able to, like, focus on your family, but unless you've got a job that gives you really good, like, benefits and, like, support for something like this, most of us just have to keep working anyway. Maybe you get, like, 1 day off, 2 days off, but then you just got to keep moving. And then I'm guessing he's filled with rage at what happened. Maybe it was a hit and run, or they caught the person and it was like a drunk driver, or, you know, something that was very clearly preventable. Like, sometimes there are just accidents, but then sometimes there's, like, preventable accidents. And those are the most infuriating, because it's like, why destroy the life of someone so young over something so stupid, something so preventable? He looked down at me with the face of a man debating whether to throw away an old can of herbicide from the back of his shed.
どうだ何か変わりはあるかいいえ昨日と同じよちゃんと呼吸してるどうせ明日も同じなんだここに来ても意味ないな
Alright, maybe not. Maybe he's not able to face the pain, and so he's trying to just kind of write it off. Which is sad, but it probably is a defense mechanism.
そんなこと言わないでくださいこの子もあなたが来てくれて喜んでるのよ喜んでいる
Dad peered down, studying my face. I really was glad to see him, but I don't have any way of expressing that happiness.
さあどうだかな俺のことが見えてるのかすらわからん
I can't see you just fine. I hear your voice.
昨日と同じだまるで時が止まったみたいだ
I loved Dad, but I was starting to think he hated me. Maybe he used to love me, but hated me because of what I'd become? Not that I even knew what I looked like anymore, honestly. Once a week, Mom would wash my body with a wet cloth. I always loved soaking in the bath, so it wasn't really satisfying by comparison, but since she was doing everything for me now, I didn't exactly have the right to complain. Not that I could have if I wanted to. What really impressed me was the soap she used. It was always lightly fruit-scented. Mom knew I'd been secretly buying fruit soaps using my pocket money. She must have looked for them in my room and brought them to the hospital for me. That's really cool. Really touching. My feelings about my parents began to change. Mom was nice, Dad was scary. One day, they started quarreling over some trivial thing right next to me. It started when Mom said something about wanting to take family trips again. Dad got irritated and started shouting at her.
こいつがいる限りそんなことは無理だろこんな体でどこに行けるって言うんだ昔みたいに遊園地に行けたらいいじゃないこの子好きだったでしょさあな泣いてたことしか覚えてないそれに車椅子で連れて行くのか遊園地に車椅子で来ている人はたくさんいるでしょ
She is right.
だがこいつはもう意識がないんだいいかこの子は他の子供とは違うんだよもう一緒にどこかに行くことなんてできないんだ
No more trips, huh? I don't know that, Dad. I didn't know that, Dad.
そんなことまだわからないでしょお医者様だって医者がどうしたもう死んでるようなものなんだいいか見てろ
Dad strode over to my bedside and violently smacked my cheek with the palm of his hand. Why would you do that to someone in the hospital, you a-hole?
どうだ生きてるか 生きてるなら返事しなさい。パパだぞ。ほら、パパだぞ。やめて、あなた。うるさい。こいつには聞こえてやしないんだ。何も分からずにずっとここで眠っているだけだ。ずっと俺たちを縛り付けてるだけだ。
Dang. I was really trying to defend you, dude, but you're really walking down a path I can't follow.
そんな言い方やめて。うるさい。とにかく、もう変なこと言うのはよせ。気分が悪い。
Dad swung the door open violently and stalked out. I wanted to tell him he was wrong. I could see everything. I could hear just fine. But it didn't hurt when he slapped me, and I couldn't cry even when my parents fought bitterly before my eyes.
ごめんね。言いたかっただろう。もうあんなことはさせないからね。
Mom returned to my side and began to gently stroke my head.
パパはお仕事でイライラしてるだけよ。大丈夫。また3人でどこかに行こうね。
I wish I could just hate him, but unfortunately I also can kind of see he's trying to be like realistic, and in his eyes, despite the ventilator, despite everything, she's already gone. He sees her as brain dead, and he's staring down the barrel of like the rising hospital costs. You gotta remember too, she's also in America, and like, it's sad to say that if she's been here for weeks, even if it stopped right now, it probably would be costing them, even with insurance, like tens of thousands of dollars, like months of salary. And that's on top of all the normal costs of life. I mean, I remember, I had a really nasty accident on my bike in high school. It where my knee not only my knee joint shattered, like it broke into 3 pieces, and had to be reconstructed. So I not only had to go through a very intense reconstructive surgery, but I was on crutches for 9 months after that, and therapy for another year, like to regain my ability to walk. I had to learn how to walk again, essentially. And my dad never said, but one day I actually looked at the bill, and he had a government job, which usually comes with pretty decent insurance. Maybe not the best, but decent insurance. And I saw that my hospital bill, so the hospital stay, the surgery, recovery, and the scans and everything they needed to do to be able to know what they had to do to reconstruct my knee. He, after all was said and done, had to pay about $12,000. $12,000 on top of just normal stuff. He must have been paying that off for years. That's the thing, it's like, and she's far worse. So, like, part of me can't hate him truly, because if he's staring down a barrel of growing hospital bills that he has to pay for, that are building and building and building and only getting more and more expensive, and, like, starting to look more and more like a second mortgage. And they maybe weren't the most well off to begin with, you know? It'd be horrifying, and he'd probably hate himself, but he's also trying to not destroy the future that they still have, trying to bring back whatever's left of his daughter that looks too far gone. What a crappy place to be. Your tone of voice was tender, but even a child like me could understand those words were flimsy, makeshift lies. They didn't take me to the toilet, but I wasn't wearing a diaper. Apparently my body had changed past the need of such things. Instead, a mess of plastic tubes constantly pumped things into and out of me. Sometimes a nurse would come and replace the tubing. It was agonizingly painful, like having a stomach cut open by a dull knife. But since I couldn't scream or even shed a tear, they never even knew. I could see that Mom was getting thinner with every passing day. It wasn't surprising. From dawn till dusk, she was at my side, talking to my motionless body, reading me books as if I were a baby again. The doctors stopped by frequently at first, but their visits grew rarer as the weeks stretched into months, and eventually, they stopped coming entirely. A nurse would stop by maybe once a week, mainly for politeness sake. I began to understand that my life was essentially over. I'd come to the end of myself. I didn't want to trouble Mom anymore, but there wasn't anything I could do to change the situation. This sucks, I tried to say. Naturally, the words didn't leave my mouth. I'm miserable, I tried to cry. But the tears wouldn't come either. One night after Mom had gone home, Dad showed up by himself. He stood by my bed with a steely look on his face. I wanted to ask him what was wrong, but by now I'd stopped even trying to speak. He reached out and put a hand on one of the machines that pumped oxygen or whatever into my body. It could be shut off easily enough if he pushed a few buttons. Probably wouldn't take long for me to die. Dad looked down at me again, his harsh expression faltered. I could see unfathomably deep anguish in his eyes. There's a man at the end of his rope. I didn't have to think twice. Dad, you can turn that machine off. I'm sorry I ended up like this. I'm sorry for becoming a burden to you. Was it my fault? I didn't really think so, but how and why no longer really mattered, do they? I'm a millstone around your neck, that's just a fact. So please, go ahead and kill me, Dad. There's nothing to forgive you for. This is what I want. But Dad just gave the machine a few light smacks, then turned on his heel and left the room. Why didn't you kill me? I don't want to keep making everyone suffer like this. Please come back. Please kill me. When Mom came in the next day, her eyes were red. She stroked my hair for a long time in silence. Please, Mom, you can stop the machine. Just kill me. There's no point in keeping me alive, is there? Hurry and end this. Mom leaned in to kiss my cheek, but lost her balance and fell to the floor. After nursing me day in and day out for months, the accumulated fatigue must have finally overwhelmed her. I heard the loud thump of her body striking something hard. It looked as though she'd fallen in an awkward way, but the area under my bed was below my field of vision. I was frantic with worry. Had she struck her head? I wanted to scream for help, but that was just as impossible. It was beyond frustrating. It was torture. Pleasant, warm sunlight streamed in through the open window, and a gentle breeze stirred the curtain. I could hear the voices of laughing children outside. It was a very peaceful day, the sort that slips easily by before you know it. And as the minutes ticked tranquilly past, Mom lay on the floor of my hospital room. I couldn't see what had happened to her, but she wasn't moving. This can't be happening. Somebody come, so please hurry, please, please. Picturing myself thrashing around in the bed, I tried desperately to squeeze a sound, any sound, out of my mouth, but it was useless. I sat there still as a stone. More than an hour later, Dad finally arrived. His face a mask of shock, Dad scrambled to my bedside and picked Mom up in his arms. Her face was wet with bright red blood. Dad carried Mom out of the room, but before he left, he turned over his shoulder and shot me an angry look, as if blaming me for what had happened. But you're wrong, Dad. This is your fault. I mean, none of this would have happened if you just killed me, would it? Following the accident, Dad took over the role as my caretaker, spent the days working on his laptop, never making eye contact with me. But after less than a week of this, a doctor came into my hospital room and began discussing something with Dad. Dad was clearly distressed, but after brooding for several minutes, he nodded silently. Accepting a pen from the doctor, he slowly signed a number of documents. There is something truly beautiful about this, though, is like, in a real situation where someone's chances of recovery are pretty much none, to be able to have an opportunity to save someone else's life, to give someone else a chance to live, there is something truly incredible about that choice. Truly, truly incredible. It's really weird having it from the perspective of the person in the bed, but I cannot hold any malice in his heart for what he's doing here. Not a single iota of it. He's a flawed person, but staring down the reality of the situation as it is, that night, Dad came right up to my side and watched my face for a long time. Man, if he doesn't consult her, I don't see their marriage surviving this. Dad didn't take my hand or stroke my head. This was going to be the last time I want him to touch me, even for a moment. Thank you, Dad. Dad stayed by my side until morning. I was really happy. The next day, an unfamiliar doctor came to my room. He gave me a number of injections, stripped me naked, carefully inspected my body. Dad stood silently by and watched. Mom wasn't there. At the end, Dad looked down at me and said something, but I couldn't make out the words. I was loaded onto a stretcher and carried to the operating room. My heart was going to be taken out of my body to save someone else. I don't know if they do this everywhere, but at least in America, they do a march of honor when a patient is going to be donating their vital living organs to save another patient. They wheel the person, conscious or not, usually not, obviously, down the aisle, but all the staff take a moment out of their day to line the aisleway and, out of respect, kind of stand vigil. Almost like when a soldier is returned home after falling in the line of duty. Because everyone knows what it's about. What's about to happen. And the willful sacrifice of the family who had to make that choice. The beautiful, horrific choice. That if I were ever in the position where I was in her state, I wouldn't hesitate. I would be honored to do what she's doing here. It'd be a lie to say I had no regrets, but that didn't sound so terrible. A lot more appealing than lying around helplessly and making Mom and Dad miserable, at least. No matter how badly I wanted to move, my body was still. No matter how much I wanted to speak, I couldn't talk to anyone. I didn't want to exist like that. That day in the operating room, I think I died once. I see. So then your heart was transplanted into Michiru's body.
そう。でもまさかあんなにはっきりと意識まで移るとは思わなかった。
Yeah. Obviously not real. Be interesting if it ever happened like that, but dang.
私はいつも暗闇の世界にいた。だけど、ミチルに嫌なことが起こると、ステージにスポットライトが当たるように、私に光が差すの。その光を手繰り寄せると、私は彼女の体を動かせることが分かった。彼女の体を動かせると知ったとき、正直、これはしてはいけないことだって思った。
I mean, yeah.
だってこれは彼女の体だから。もしそれが可能だとしても、知らないふりをして、ずっと暗闇で眠っていなければいけないんだって。
That's the thing. I don't like a lot of the things that Dr. Michiru ended up doing, but can you blame her? No. No, not at all. If I were in her shoes, I probably would have done the same thing.
だけど、長い間ずっとベッドで動けなかった私にとって。
Yeah.
指を動かす。声を出す。視線をどこかに向けるという行為は快感とも言えるものだった。
Yeah, and why is Michiru it's like she's tuned to be a mirror of my own high school. Like who I was, what I went through, what it was like being me in high school. Even Dark Michiru, because she's saying here that idea how wonderful the ability to move your body freely is. Do you know how insane it is to just be able to walk? Have you ever had to abandon that ability for longer than even a couple weeks? because I essentially had a year and a half where I couldn't walk. I learned how to be on crutches really well. I was actually really fast. By the time I got so good at crutches, I could actually get to classes faster than my my classmates. I could, like, my cruising speed on crutches, like, not even rushing, just like my normal speed on crutches. I called it vaulting because that's really what it was faster than a standard walking pace or even like a power walk. Obviously, you ran, you'd leave me in the dust, but I got really mobile with it. But, like, it's so bulky and just difficult to deal with for such a long time. And it was so painful having to relearn, like, not just how to walk, but, like, when you go through something that's traumatic, your body makes a lot of scar tissue. And so physical therapy is about breaking down the scar tissue that's limiting your movement. You have to kind of literally re-break a lot of the structure that helped you repair your body in order to walk again. And the thing is, like, I'll never have 100% action in my leg. If I ever go to Japan, one of the things that's going to suck the most is that I can't sit on my legs or even cross-legged properly without risking, like, injury or locking my joint up. So if I ever go to Japan, I'm going to have to just do the best I can, but I'm going to end up having one leg I'm never going to be able to fully, like, curl up and sit on. And I imagine that's going to be really odd. And if I don't have good Japanese skills, which I won't, I'm not going to be able to explain it. So I'm just going to look like a really goofy foreigner. And that's a legacy of a time when I couldn't walk. And it's so wonderful to be able to move around on my own. To not have to, like, where stairs isn't like a negotiation. It's just climbing stairs. Not surprising that you didn't feel that you'd feel that way, but the body you were moving wasn't actually yours. Someone upstairs has a nasty sense of humor.
Michiru は子供の頃に悲しいことがあってから心を閉ざしているみたいだった。それで彼女が辛い時は代わりに表に出ていろいろなことをした。彼女の人生がうまくいくようにって必死で頑張った。
Yeah. I mean, your motivations were very pure, but it did a lot of damage, unfortunately.
でも正直に言えば単純に動けることが嬉しかっただけかもしれない。本当にミチルのことを思えばあんなことをしちゃいけなかったのよ。大きなお世話だった。
Not intentionally. You did everything you could to ease that pain. Michiru's suffering hurt you too.
そうよ。言ったでしょ。私は悪者なんかじゃないのよ。純粋にミチルを助けたかっただけ。
Well, she wants to return the favor, so let's talk about these regrets of yours, by which I mean, what do you want to do?
心残り。何でも願いが叶うとしたら、ママとパパに会いたいかな。
You know, that's probably more doable than you think. Your parents, huh?
うん。何か一つだけって言うなら、ママとパパ。それで、会ってどうするわけじゃないけど、顔が見たい。
I see. That's your wish, is it?
でも、そんなの無理に決まってる。私の住んでいた場所は日本じゃない。ここから遠すぎる。それにこの姿であったとしても、私だってわからないでしょ。
I don't know. There's a lot of really cool stories about, like, people who were able to survive because of the sacrifices of, like, family members. Going back to the families to say thank you. It's a very powerful thing. I reach out and squeeze the girl's hand tightly. I can't return you to your original form, but I can take you to your parents. If that's what you want, I'll help make it happen. Yeah! After all, that's what Michiru wants as well.
でもだって、私が住んでいたのは日本じゃないんだよ。
Hey, world's not as big as it used to be. What about it? I suppose is it supposed to be a problem? The only issue I see here is you're waffling. Oh, we don't have to do this if you don't want to, alright? You might regret it later, but it's your choice to make. So, what'll it be?
どうするって。
You've already made up your mind, haven't you? And you know you have. I'll give you 2 seconds to answer. This is your only chance. Ready?
行く。
I hadn't even started counting, but whatever.
ユージ君、私をママとパパのところに連れて行って。 顔が見たい。
Understood. Stand by here for 5 minutes.
ちょっと待って。だって5分ってどうするの？言っちゃった。
You gotta understand, this is just who Yuuji is.
でも無理だよね。だって私。くんってば何を考えているのかしら。私だけならともかくハルデラさんまで巻き込むなんて。
How did... Wow.
あなたは学園長？そうよ、話は聞きました。もうあんな言い方されたら私が断れないこと知ってなんてやつなのかしら。まさかあの弱みをついてくるなんて絶対に許さない。
Yeah, I don't know. He's got the riz. He just knows what to say, how to say it.
どういうことでしょう？ごめんなさい。いいから出発の準備をしなさい。と言っても、靴だけ履き替えればいいわよ。パスポートも着替えも必要ないわ。観光じゃないならツアーガイドも必要ないでしょ？
Yeah. I mean, it's true. You can usually get like a really like a fast and easy 30-day visa just by going to the airport.
でも遊園地にも行きたいなら今回は我慢してね。そこまで楽しめるプランは組めないわ。
Wait, you already have an itinerary. He was literally gone for not even like 30 seconds.
ちょっと許可は出したけど校庭に着陸させることないでしょ。あそこの課題今が先時なのに。
Did he get a fighter jet? Like a vertical takeoff fighter jet?
飛行機？
Sorry to keep you waiting. Good thing we happen to have someone flying around nearby. How did I do? Was that 5 minutes? With a wink at Chizuru, I dragged Michiru out of her room.
ちょっと飾りか。帰ってきたら分かってるでしょうね。
Yeah, I'll take responsibility. Where I can, at least. We'll go 50-50 on the rest.
本当に覚えておきなさいよ。
He's gonna cause an international incident with this.
ねえ、これはどういうこと？校庭に飛行機が来るなんて。
It's our ride. We're going to see your parents right now.
今から？
Yes, right now. Once the decision's made, why put off taking action? You agreed to this yourself, remember?
でも
Before the girl can continue her spluttering objections, I cover her eyes with my hand. Just trust me, all right? America's not so far as all that. Thinking back once we're there, it'll feel like we only left 3 seconds ago. Allow me to demonstrate. 3, 2, 1. Fetch me! Did he, like, knock her out? What the heck? And, like, I understand we're in America, but a banjo? Really? Yeah, that's absolutely supposed to be a banjo. What's this feeling I have? I feel culturally appropriated. Thank you. Not really. It's like, it is weird though. Like, I hope you were going for a southern feel, because that's definitely, majority of America would probably just, be confused at a banjo. I just happen to know people, and lived in the South for a little while, and happen to know people who play the banjo. But we're gonna go ahead and end it here, because this is gonna get spicy. It doesn't seem like we have too much left, because it seems like it is like full on sprinting for this finale, but like, we got her story, we now know Dark Michiru's past, and I'm really interested in seeing like what this conversation is gonna be like and how it plays out in the end. So yeah, I'm excited for that, but we'll have to continue this next week. Again, I'm thinking it's trying to rush us to a finale really, really fast, but all the same, I'm not gonna complain. I'm having a great time. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I laughed, I cried. It's pretty much a typical episode out here, right? Like, I'm just flummoxed for words. I love this. I love this game. This game's been great. Why are there so many good visual novels out there that nobody seems to know about? Like, why am I like one of the few people in my life, in my like social like circles, that ever even bothered to read a visual novel? Why can't I persuade them to? It's been such a great experience, and what a great just manifestation of writing and characters and just motivations and relatableness. Like, again, like, it's weird. Michiru's like this really weird, like, mirror for my own experiences in my own life. It's kind of like creepy because now Dark Michiru is also echoing my life, obviously in a much more extreme form, just like how Michiru is a very extreme form of what I struggled with in high school. But still, it's like, it's weird how parallel it is for me. So, yeah, that's something. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel. Thank you for the patrons and members for being here. We had a new one. Every time we get a new patron or member on the channel, it blows me away. I don't deserve it, but I'm going to do my best to deserve it and to make content that keeps you coming back, that makes you want to continue to support. But even if you aren't like directly supporting me in that way, like liking, subscribing, or just watching the videos is more than enough. I'm real grateful that anybody is here, and I'm really excited to hear your comments and what you think about this series and about the events that we just like read with Dark Michiru. But yeah, excuse me. Thank you so much for being a part of the channel and the journey. And like, you can hear my throat starting to give out, so I really should wrap this up. So until next video, watch me, see me next. I'll see you there.